for having me here today. Elsa, thank you so much for the privacy plug and the privacy by design stuff. And it was really good to see Andrew Chen's positive comments. So that's great. And really appreciate working with Ministry of Health across that app as well. And you've done an awesome job. So thank you. So for the 10.5 million, good work. So yeah, it's cool. So a bit about me and a bit about the role. So yeah, as Grant said, I have a kind of a dual title. I am the Government Chief Privacy Officer, so all the privacy nerds in here probably know me. And I'm also the General Manager for Agency Partnerships and Capability. And that is a role which we'll talk about in a minute. But essentially it's an interface between the Government Chief Digital Officers world and agencies. And some of my crew are here today. So we'll see from here. In terms of standards and nerdiness, Ritesh is my go-to guy over here. So, hey, Ritesh. Ritesh starts the conversation with us all about how many cockroaches can be in chocolate, right? And so that's the thing. I didn't realise you could have that percentage of cockroaches in chocolate. And so it became a really interesting way to sort of engage us around why standards are really important. So he might tell you about how many things might be in the food you're about to eat. This is what's the same level of contamination, maybe is the way to put it. So, so thanks for having me here today. Cool. So the branch. So this guy here, and some people might know him, is Paul James. He is the Chief Executive of Internal Affairs. One of his many, many hats is the Government Chief Digital Officer, which was the title formerly known as the Government Chief Information Officer back in the day. So the role that I'm in as part of the Digital Public Service branch helps support and give life to that role. If anybody says the Office of the Government Chief Digital Officer, actually the Government Chief Digital Officer is an individual and it's a title given to an individual. And we are part of the Digital Public Service branch. So slight delineation there in case it's confusing. So we do two things. So we're part of Internal Affairs. It's a very big and diverse organisation, not as big as NB, but certainly pretty diverse. And we deliver the strategy for digital public services, what we'll talk about next. All right, this is on a page version of the strategy. So all this is available online at digital.gov.nz. Hands up all those who have read the strategy. Might be good. Yeah, cool. Thoroughly recommend it. It's a gripping read. It's right up there with the beginners. But it's a really good thing that we've got the strategy. And in comparison to previous strategies, this is more about a series of outcomes that we see in the way that we think about digital. And digital isn't just my iPhone, digital is about the ways we work around here and for the public service. But also how we reimagine service to citizens. And that's ultimately why we use this as a public service. It has 4 key outcomes. And 5 foundational focus areas to work through, and we'll talk a bit about those as we go. But it's also really important to me that I can see an absolute line between why we need standards and why they are important and how they support the outcomes of the strategy. So let's talk here a bit about how we work in the system. So I talked about the fact that one of the things in our role is to work with agencies, and yes, there are a core set of public service agencies and Crown entities that we work with. But our engagement goes beyond those. And I know a number of you in the audience here are from NGOs, and I think we may not interact with you directly, but the way that we work hopefully feeds out to you. And even though the strategy may not apply necessarily to NGOs, it's worth a read anyway, because it does show how we think public service should be, and we think of it every week. So we think of this in sort of 3 ways, and I think this works really well with the way the community works. First of all, we engage, and that's really to understand what the needs of agencies are, but also to help them understand what the strategy means in practice. The second thing is guiding, and guiding is really important. Guidance for us doesn't necessarily mean we'll tell you what to do, because the expertise doesn't live with us necessarily, the expertise lives with you. So that's where the third part comes in. So the guidance helps you to navigate the complexity that is government, right? The way that government works is quite complex, and it's not always easy to see your way through how it works. So we'll hold hands, we'll walk beside you, we'll connect you up, we'll make sure that you'll get all the support you need to succeed. The third part, and I think this is ultimately where the community goes, analysis presentations are a good example of this, about sharing. And actually we learn through sharing the experiences of others, and what they've done can set the pattern for what we should do in the future. Now, that is not something that we go, and here's here's how you should do it. Actually, our job is also to help people find where others have done this, and so we can broadcast that and share that information for others to learn from. And that is so vital. I think it's so vital. So I applaud you, Alistair, for the sharing of part of that. So thank you. So that's kind of how we intend to work with agencies. So very much about the way this community works as well. We are dedicated to bringing people and agencies together. We're just really keen that we're really keen to make sure that we connect everybody and that we provide that guidance to others. And so also that might mean that we learn something about what the system doesn't have. And that means we can do something about that. We're in a very unique position, right? If there is something that multiple agencies need, we are in a position where we might be able to help support wherever that might be. It could be a standard, but it could be guidance and practice, it could be a capability, and that's unique role that we can play. Our aim, and the aim for my team, is two parts: grow capability and improve resilience. They're kind of the fundamental reasons why we do our job. So that's important. So let's talk about that one. Okay, so the vision for digital and data and digital standards, right? Simple, relevant, co-created Eastern with standards for public sector interoperability integrated services. Cool, not enough. Okay, but the short form version of that really is the idea of standards, in our view, is that they really help connect systems together. If you build systems too and they adopt those standards and people work to those standards, things should just move, right? It should move from plug and pray to plug and play, and we really want to make sure that happens. We really think that standards fit in those 5 years at the bottom. There's the thing about integrated services. Integrated services is about joining up services and systems. If the things that we do are built to standards, they should work together. They should be able to join up. They should share information safely. They should be able to be experienced by people with visual difficulties or of different languages as well, right? So the whole thing with this is that we really think that standards help support the integrated services focus area. And that's the idea of grants hard too. So that's good. And so we think that's why it supports the strategy decision of forward to society. So kind of as we sort of said here, I think this is kind of why we think they're important. We really want to help agencies understand what standards are out there and help to evolve and morph the standards, frameworks, and systems that we've got. I think Ritesh, you mentioned that we started with there were 999 digital standards or something. And I think one of the things we're also experiencing is that the plethora of standards may not be that useful. So I think if we can get another standards to a tight set, I think that'll be really useful and find the most applicable. But if we help agencies understand how they can use those standards to best advantage and how they can implement them and secure them, then I think they'll work really well. And so it's really fundamental that we work with the community here to help us do that. To help us make what are the right things to do, how do we do them, how do we get the stories out there. That's really important. I think all those things will support that. And I click. And I click. Sorry. Oh, sorry. See that? Press one. Cool. Right. So without going really deep into the strategy, and I think it's there to read, I think what we recommend is you do have a good read of it. Contact details are on there. Have a read and ask questions. I think that's probably the best. I mean, we've got a series of outcomes in that strategy that we really believe in. We really want to help agencies and those who work with us to understand that a lot more. That will take more than a 10-minute and I think what we might want to do is if we want to do like a deep dive in part of the website out, take those parts and explore them. Quite key. Pretty straightforward. Contact details there. Send me to Ritesh. Oh, and plug in privacy too, by the way. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Good luck.